Hello everyone, I am the Lore Explorer and this is Outer Wilds. While playing the game, it's very easy to be amazed by the grandiose nature of the Nomai. When you're exploring some new rune, it's unlikely that you stop to take the time to appreciate the light switches only activated by looking at them. There is a bunch of cool stuff like that all throughout the game that I feel like a lot of people overlooked due to the obvious awesomeness of the bigger, more flashy stuff the Nomai have. So that's what we will be talking about in today's loop. And as always, this video will contain spoilers for Outer Wilds. I think the first thing I want to talk about is something about the Nomai themselves. Their third eye may actually have some unique ability the other two don't have. In fact, that's almost certain, but it's definitely not certain as to what that ability is. But I'll take my guess after we look at the evidence. We will start inside the giant geyser on Timber's hearth. The Nomai here discovered our ancestors while we were still an aquatic species. They pointed out that the Hearthians had 4 eyes and specifically wondered what our 4th eye did. This suggests that their third eye actually does something. Plus, when we head to the sun station, we can see it brought up again. When they fired the sun station with the intent of blowing up the sun, it failed miserably. It failed so bad, one Nomai actually asked if it even fired at all. The answer was, it fired, Yarrow, but it failed. The sun barely responded. There were infinitesimally small surface level changes, but they were barely visible, even to the third eye. In the alpha for Outer Wilds, the Nomai statue in the Hearthian Observatory is actually quantum. To me at least, that suggests the Nomai's third eye, in the alpha, allowed them to view the entire thing at once. I don't think that exactly carries over directly to the Nomai in the full release, but it's still evidence that their third eye actually does something special. Looking at all of this evidence, it seems to me the Nomai are capable of using their third eye to see things at the atomic level. They were able to see the sun's response at infinitesimally small scales. Plus, the statue at the alpha sort of suggested the Nomai could see the superposition of each of those particles. But anyway, that's just the best guess I have. Next up, we are going to look at the Nomai light switches, but don't worry, it's not as boring as it sounds. More accurately, they are clear orbs which hold an electric charge and are moved around by looking at them and directing them with our eyes. These orbs are always in a tube or confined in some way, allowing us to move them around in a controlled area. Inside of the orb is 3 strange shapes, most likely related to the 3 eyes of the Nomai. Maybe those shapes track their eyes, but apparently having 4 of them is fine. When we look at them, they light up and move in whatever direction our eyes lead them. I'm guessing this is an eye tracking technology of sorts that the Nomai use to make their lives a bit simpler. I think this next one may be the most overlooked technology the Nomai have. I don't even know really what to call it, but I mean, it's a pool of moving liquid gold, I guess, maybe. And when we activate this liquid, the liquid will rise up and begin to take shape. Going to the next switch, it will turn into a new object and float there for us to view. When we are done, it falls back down to make a splash in the pool. So somehow, the Nomai have a way to make this liquid remember shapes, and they use this for a variety of different reasons. They use it to depict the planets in their orbits when they need that, as well as store and display coordinates of the eye of the universe and likely other data. But this mystery liquid is actually used in another cool Nomai technology, the projection stones / pools. These things are actually pretty strange. A stone with an image on it depicting a location. If we plug that into the projection pool, we are instantly teleported to another location, but only visually. If we try to walk away from the projection pool, the projection fades, and we are still back where we were. But if you look down during all of this, we see the same weird liquidy substance underneath us. During a test for the multiplayer mod, we found out that the body is actually projected to the location that we go to as well. I think the Nomai probably use these to communicate with each other, and that's why we find the conversations logged on them, and we can actually, tap into those if we put these into one of the boards. As for how they actually project the other location, I think this stone is probably connected to it, sort of like we're connected to the statues. And the location is based on whatever's, depicted on its face. And plugging it in gives us a real-time view of what's happening there. The next technology the Nomai have would actually be a cool little party trick. If you knock over one of their signs, it'll actually fix itself. The stones somehow remember where they are supposed to be and go about moving themselves back to where they started. This probably saved the Nomai tons of time not having to run out every time the sand or a stray lava rock knocks one over. but we will see more of these soon. Next up, we will actually be talking about the iconic Nomai mask. You may actually think that they are just a magnificent fashion statement, but they are actually functional as well, and essentially acts as their space helmet. At the back of the helmet, you can actually see an oxygen tank built right in. You can even see the small airline running from the tank to the front of the helmet where it's needed. I'm guessing their usual garb would act as an airtight, likely pressurized spacesuit. So yeah, the Nomai masks aren't only an awesome symbol of the Nomai species, but a functional piece of a spacesuit. So this one is a bit strange, but we're going to talk about some Nomai gravity manipulation technology that isn't gravity crystals. At least I think. They seem to have another way to create a gravitational force, and somehow project it far distances. We can use these to ascend buildings, or traverse long horizontal distances to about 100 meters. They can also be used to hold us or our spaceship down as well. I call them artificial gravity wells. These wells are projected by a ring, and are depicted by blue light. The Nomai may have actually found a way to give light mass, and the light is actually what's pulling us forward. Or something else entirely. Or I guess they could just be an extension of gravity crystal technology, but my gut is telling me it's something of its own. I mean, the Nomai did have gravity in the vessel, even though they didn't discover gravity crystals before that, so it's conceivable that it'd be its own technology. Up next is a tool that any true Nomai would not be caught without. They really seem like an invaluable tool to each and every Nomai. And I'm talking about the Nomai staffs, of course. These things are actually pretty cool. I'll show you what we know they can do first, and then we'll talk about what their potential is. When we run into Solanum, she actually has her staff with her. Now, it's easy to get caught up in the impactful moment meeting her is, but during this time, she uses her staff to do some crazy things. Asking her a question prompts her to use the staff. She touches it, butt end to the rock next to her, and pictures show up, just like the pictures we see on the projection stones. And as each picture appears, a note rings out that sort of makes a little tune. She points at them, and it turns out now they are somehow removable from the solid rock face. So right off the bat, she uses her staff to imbue stone with information, then made them removable from the solid rock. Next, she uses it to rearrange some rocks nearby, and locks them into place, just like the self-fixing road signs we talked about earlier. This is probably how they remember where to go, and that's basically what we call telekinesis in the real world. She then again imbues more information into the stone wall to right, but the way she does it is actually pretty interesting. We see her look down at her staff, touch it with her fingers, and then touch it butt end to the wall to right. Obviously, she can erase stuff as well, but Solanum made the staff sort of look like a tablet of sorts. I mean, just look at this thing. It could definitely be a Nomai computer, and the Nomai could likely send messages back and forth with these to have personal conversations. The pad on top would have displayed the text sent to their friends. It makes sense if they incorporated the memory statues into their staff as well. That way they can control it with their mind. They could even act as sort of an atomic printer, allowing the Nomai to take and reuse the local surroundings. We don't find any tools in which the Nomai mined or built their houses with, so I mean it just sort of makes sense to me after all I've seen that they would use these staffs, then repurpose the material for construction. We do find the same type of material making up almost all of the Nomai buildings. What I'm suggesting here isn't too far of a stretch. No matter how you look at it, Solanum could somehow manipulate her environment with her staff. I'd bet, without these staffs, the Nomai could never have built such huge and intricate structures. But that's about all I have for this video. I tried to focus on the smaller things the Nomai probably use day to day, rather than the ash twin projects, probe cannons, and giant solar arrays of the universe, because I think it's easy to be lost in all of those things, while this staff is basically a superhero or mage's staff that people just tend to overlook. But as always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it, and let's try to get it up to 250 likes this time. Of course, be sure to subscribe to the channel to be updated when I release a new video. The channel hit a 15 membership milestone recently, getting us up to 8 emojis. The most recent addition is the Outer Wild Ventures badge, but you can never have enough emojis. If you want to help the community unlock more emojis, you can hit the join button below to become a member. Before O'Connell Harper became a member, I was flying around the universe with this basic spaceship, but ever since they joined, I've been flying around in this new spaceship with 3 windows, and this way I'll never miss an opportunity to explore, and you can never have too many spaceships. But jokes aside, it really does help the channel grow. But as always, this is the Lore Explorer, just grateful you watched to begin with.